Thank y'all for tuning in today. You're now listening to Roundtable Radio. I am your host, King Born. The call-in number to build with us today is 1-800-214-6186. It's 1-800-214-6186. And right now, I have a special guest on the line representing the Ethiopian World Federation, Ross Daniel, and his comrade. Peace, how you doing today?
Blessed. How are you doing, my brother?
I'm doing all right, fam. Doing all right. Building, adding on. I figure I'll reach out to you and let the people get some of this information that you have that's so valuable and really needed right now.
Give thanks. I'm here with my fellow brother, who is Brother Morris, and we are presently on the job, working on the food drive and the membership drive of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia abroad, which is the Federation, and we are dealing with Chapter 18, Portsmouth Chapter. And our interest is to take up our civil duty that was extended to us by our royal lineage, our dynastical heritage. And that being said, we are a nation for the Ethiopian Republic abroad. And we have a lot of work to do to be more governing over our affairs. And our community has a diaspora's problem, and we're in time of emergency. If we can reach out and think about charity and church society, and we'll be only following our divine legacy of the ancient Orthodox teachings, that we are family in the same faith, and in that accord, as a human race, we are all a duty to our fellowships, and truth and in spirit, and in that accord, we need to deal with it in a concrete material, with a noble gesture, and a humanitarian justice.
Word. Okay, and your chapters that you actually have going right now that the people could reach out to and assist in making this happen, where would it be located?
Well, the chapter is practically located at the 929 Portsmouth Boulevard headquarters office, and that is in Portsmouth, Virginia. That's 23704 zip code area. And also the closest cross street to that is the Heffernan Cross Street. That's not too far from the underpass of the tunnel coming from Norfolk to Portsmouth.
Word.
And it's adjacent to Chesapeake and Newport. What's called that area down there? No, west. And you're going west.
Okay, something that I also found very interesting was about the land grant in Shashamane. If you could update the people on that info and give them a little knowledge about the land grant that was left by His Imperial Majesty.
Well, actually, the land grant in Shashamane was really a humanitarian effort that was put together by His Imperial Majesty when he was crowned King of Kings in 1930. That means that he took over the inheritance of the Solomonic heritage that was established with God in terms of the biblical lineage when Samuel was summoned by our supreme source to anoint David he was given the oil of anointing to anoint the king over the king that the people that decided they wanted a king to represent this king. And the Almighty was at that point saying that, why do the people choose to have a king when I've been leading you in the desert with pillars of fire by night and by day? I lead you by cloud, I give you water, I give you feast in the desert, all this, and now you say you want a king. And then at that point, the Almighty source is Israel, and he created an Israel nation to come serve him. But they were not trying to serve him when they come out of Egypt, because they wanted to go back into the Egypt land. And he spoke about this promised land from the creation of time. And it come down to be a legacy to the lineage of David, and Ethiopia being the Orthodox, unbroken lineage of the faith, they are kept up this reality and has to deal with it. So when the Imperial Majesty was crowned in 1930, part of the Constitution is to unite back the faith of the humanitarian effort and the faith of church and state, which become theocratical government. It entails a government that is concerned about its people, its God, and its nation. And that being said, Ethiopian World Federation had a duty to come into existence when we start to speak of modernization, because this was the same kingdom that was responsible for slavery in two forces. We were the royals that had slaves, but it wasn't slavery like in the West. It was just indentured slavery in order to build monarchs and kingdoms, and people got paid. It wasn't brutalized as these natures. It was like we had war before, and you tear up our country and you indenture to fix it back. When you fix it back, then we free you with all the goals and things you need to go fix your country. Because the winner is really the loser, because he got to pay the loser to fix his country, and then you got to pay him to get out this country, go fix his own, to stay in his own country. Because we're all families in the federation, that is. So Africa was not a nation that built guns. They built civil union as far as tribal. And now today we come into the modern days, and the European really was trying to disturb our civil development, and we envisioned that we was going to visit a new reality where wars start to come to the country. A new technology of war was fighting ancient war, a period of people that only knew how to fight the ancient battles with spears and shields and swords. Now they was confronted modern war with planes and bombs, and they were not equipped. But their faith was strong enough to continue defeating these elements as it comes to take over the aggression. So when the war in 1935 come into view, this only opened up for us all to defend this Christian nation, which was the Lion of Judah throne. And the war became because there was aggression coming from Germany and Italy, and all the Europeans was trying to take over Africa at that time, take over Ethiopia at that time, and turn it into Africa. It's called Africa colonization, the shield of Africa. That's 1930 when they started to create a union in the Geneva Convention, and the European was arming themselves to come into the Christian nation, the Holy Land, and disturb it with war. Well, after the war, before the war, the news went out throughout the world, and many nations in the world come and was supportive of defending Ethiopia at war. Canada was one, Mexico was one, France was one, and some of the European nations that said they was part of Ethiopia was being a snake, because they said they was, and they was only deal with alternate motive to take over the king's land. And he noticed that all the cleverness, and that was like England, that was like Europe in terms of Germany and France, and they all had an alternative motive to enrich their own kingdom. So at the end of the war, before the war ended, you had America. America was coming to help in the war as well. Black people left from Harlem by the boatloads, and black people left from the islands and from many places to go help in the World War II. That was the 1930 war that after he crowned in 1930, the whole world started to went against the crowning, because he's the heir of the Solomonic crown. And Rome was one of the conquests that was trying to conquer the world. So they wanted to maintain the Roman Constitution, which became the Christopher Columbus discovered America, as in the 1600s when they chartered the world to be a new world order. And England came right after that and established what they call corpus law. So while they took over this mission to redo the world, and the king came into view, they had to make a decision whether they're going to continue on their new program or they're going to subject themselves to the Asian Orthodox faith in terms of what the father of the sawing that he shared with man, that we could live in humanity and with our neighbors in these fortitude of noble character, integrity, sovereignty. All of these things is God-like nature. But the barbarics was not interested in that. They was interested in gold, wealth, diamonds, silver, and also taking over control, power and control. That we war in Ethiopia, and that we also, after the war was over, that the king decided a land for the unification of African freedom. The land grant was in Ethiopia, but things is still visible. The land in Africa that was the land of the Nazareth, of Nazareth and Oromo. And this is the Nazareth is exactly where Christ now had to sojourn to go to the manger. When you reach Ethiopia, Shashamani, you find that you're practically out in the wilderness where their manger, everybody keeps their cow in their house. Because if you don't, you have hyenas that will eat your cow. So you have to keep them in the house so you can free them in the morning when you proceed to ward off the elements of the night. So Shashamani is just like that right now, because when it was set aside for the black people to war after the war, the many black people fought that war and inherited it. There was an overthrow in 1974 by the feudal government of the Russians that they was introducing fascism into Ethiopia by communism, and they overthrow the king's rights of running the country as an empire, or the world as an empire, for a second time. That's 1930, that's 1974. Because he restored order in Ethiopia in 1945 after the 35 war, and he established in the United States and its superior nation the federal government system, which is democratical, constitutional, civil league by membership. And that means the nationhood was being developed as modernity, and he also came and did that in America in 1930, 33. He was in Harlem, the streets in Harlem, making these arrangements, and he established the first Ethiopian Orthodox Abyssinian Church in Harlem that is there today to mark the stone, the development of the faith. And he went ahead and established Harlem as one of the states of the Black Union, and that's why Harlem at 125th Street on up is black, and Harlem at 125th Street down is the Rothschild, Rockefeller, Kennedy, and so forth. There's New York.
Word.
So these things is visibly here for us to research it, and the land grant won't connect back to the land that the Pan-African movements was fighting for, and all these things was invisible. Malcolm X went and see these things in Ethiopia and made mention of it, but he's not around to speak of it anymore. So that's where the generation gap comes. There's a lot of our leaders had to go to rest. Time passed and the mission dwindled out. The land grant is still there. The mission is still there. It's even more today because Africa, Ethiopia is dealing with civil development, and the Union, since after 1935, prior to War of 74, we are now newly opening up the doors again for democracy. Is no longer communism in Ethiopia. It's a democratical future, and that's why it is Ethiopian Federal Democratic at home and abroad. Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia at home and abroad, the Federation.
Word. Okay, that's real good information. Hey, we're going to take a break real quick. We had a couple of calls come in. I thank you for your time. You hold on to me. We're going to chop it up for a while. Right now, thank y'all for logging into Roundtable Radio. We're going to get into some Barris Hammond.